All right, guys, we've talked about the 7 C's, and we've only talked about a few of them. The first one was creation. The second one was corruption. The third one was catastrophe, which was the flood. And if you'll remember, we finished up on the flood. And right after the flood, there was an ice age. And remember, it happened because of the volcanoes and a lot of other things had changed the world because all that water had to come up, and it created the ice age. Well, after the flood and all the catastrophe that had happened, God landed Noah on a place in a new land for them to begin to populate. And he said he wanted us to repopulate and to spread out and populate the world. Noah's family didn't do that. Well, they made more babies, they did lots of different things, and they had lots and lots of people in their families, but they didn't exactly obey God. So God had to create confusion. And that's the next C that we were going to talk about, is confusion. And I have the book right here. So you can see all the people. There's a bunch of people. And they were going to do a building called the Tower of Babel, because they all got together and they wanted to do something together to reach God. Well, at that time, everybody spoke the same language. But did you notice that we don't all speak the same language now? Well, let's read a little bit. God had commanded everybody to populate the world and to spread out. And this is what it says in the Bible that proves to us that the language was the same everywhere. In Genesis chapter 11, verse 1, it says, "The whole world had only one language, and all the people spoke it. They moved to the east and found a broad valley in Babylon, and there they settled down." And that's chapter 11, verse 1 and 2. So they were all in the same basic area, and they were all speaking the same language. But God wanted them to spread out. Well, he had to figure out a way to do that. Well, the story goes on, and it says that in Genesis chapter 11, verse 4, the people came together and they said, "Come, let's build a city for ourselves. Let's build a tower that reaches to the sky. We'll make a name for ourselves. Then we won't be scattered over the face of the whole earth." It's exactly what God wanted them to do, was to scatter, was to populate the whole world. And here they are, disobeying God again. And he told them, spread out. And they didn't do it. So what does God have to do when we disobey? That's right. He has to punish sin. So they're all building this. And in chapter 11, verse 5, it says, "The Lord came down to see the city and the tower the people were building. And the Lord said, 'They are one people, and all of them speak the same language. That is why they can do this. Now they will be able to do anything they plan to, instead of obeying God. Come, let us go down and mix up their language. Then they will not understand each other.'" Well, he had to actually give them the confusion to make them do what he wanted them to do, not let them do what they wanted to do. So he gave them different languages. Well, I have a paper that shows different languages. So right there it says, "The house is blue," and that's in English. Well, then the next one is in French, and it says, "La maison est bleue." Oh, and then it's in Spanish, and it says, "La casa es azul." And then in German, it says, "Das Haus ist bleu." I had to ask for some help on those. Those are different languages I just shared with you. And then in Hebrew, you can see the letters are even very, very different. That's what God did. He gave us a confusing time by giving us different languages, and that made us obey. God really has to push us sometimes to get us to obey. He wanted the people to scatter. He gave them a different language, and they scattered. So in Genesis chapter 8 and 9, it says, "So the Lord scattered them from there over the whole earth, and they stopped building the city. The Lord mixed up the language of the whole world there, and that's why the city is named Babel. From there, the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth, and they could not understand each other. Sometimes we really, really do need that push. But that's why there's so many different places, so many different countries, so many different people all over the world. God had to make the people obey. And he did that by giving us different language and then scattering us up that way. So everybody who spoke English, they all found each other and they all moved to one place. And then all the people that spoke French, they would find each other and say, oh, you can understand me. And they would gather and they moved on to another place. And then sometimes they wouldn't even know what the other one was saying. They had to figure it out with each other. And they got together and they went somewhere else and they started a new town on their own too. So that's how we scattered. God ordered it to happen. It didn't happen. The people didn't do it. In fact, they wanted to stay together. And God had to give them confusion to make it happen and make them populate the whole earth. So that's the next C that we were talking about. Now, we've talked about Christ and the cross and all of those different things, but we haven't gotten there yet in our Bible study. So be patient because we're going to get there. And just know that we are now going to talk about confusion for a little bit, and we'll see some different things that have helped create our world the way it is today. We need lots of different opinions. We need lots of different ideas. We need lots of creative people in different ways too. That's the whole reason why we have different kinds of art and music, because we needed that thing. That's what God wanted us to do, was to use what he gifted us with to use in our lives. And then we were able to do all kinds of different things like buildings and art, everything. It's amazing. So there's our Bible for now. You'll get to watch it and see some different things that made confusion. And then we'll talk some more. See you next time.